Trump is assembling a team of all-stars for his cabinet and beyond. Welcome to the Buck Brief. Let's do this. We got Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense. My old buddy Pete. You can go back and find clips of us doing the real news at the Blaze together in, 2012? We're going back 12, going on 13 years. Pete's a great guy. You've got DNI, Tulsi Gabbard in the mix now. Really like Tulsi. Very nice person. Patriot. Loves her country. I think she'll be great. Ratcliffe at CIA. He's got a lot of house cleaning to do over there. We got Matt Gaetz nominated as Attorney General. You've got Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy running DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. You've got Lee Zeldin at EPA. I mean, you start going down this list, and I'll tell you one thing. This is a list that is meant to drive libs completely insane. And in that sense, I'm very excited about it, right? It's nice to have an assemblage of figures from the right who are not within the Beltway system, not, go along to get along, moderate Republicans or whatever it may be. These are people who are being picked to shake up these institutions. It is going to be the Trump cabinet versus the bureaucracy. Trump cabinet versus the swamp 2.0. And this time around, I got to tell you, Trump seems hell-bent on just coming out swinging. No learning curve. No, we're going to build the plane as we fly it. They are already assembling an A-10 Warthog so that it can lay down maximum firepower as soon as it takes off, which means the inauguration, right? To belabor the analogy. So, yeah, I got to tell you, the one that I am the most excited about is the Elon Musk and Vivek possibility here, just because, first of all, I think Elon is a genius, a managerial and visionary genius, a guy who can do things that nobody else can do or even would have tried to do when it comes to space, when it comes to electric cars. I mean, all these different things. The Boring Company, SpaceX, Tesla, AI. He's big in the AI space and buying Twitter and turning it into X. Elon's amazing. And Vivek has made quite a fortune for himself in the pharmaceutical industry and is a very, very adept speaker. So I think these two guys could do phenomenal things in the government. I think there could be some really great stuff that comes from it. And I would love it if they could take some of these government. First of all, some of these government bureaucracies just need to go. And it'll be interesting to test the courts on this. I'm sure there'll be a lot of lawsuits and, you can't do that. And they're civil servants. And do we need a Department of Education? The answer is no, we do not. Right? That's one thing. Trump has already said he's going to get rid of it. And people say, what about all the schools? States run schools. The state itself runs schools, or the different states run schools. And believe it or not, people went to school before the Department of Education existed. There was a whole thing. There were schools all across the country. Harvard's been around for like 300 years. So I'm pretty sure that there were schools, right? Why do you have this massive federal bureaucracy? Well, it's to make sure that, schools in rural Ohio and schools in Western Kentucky, among all other schools too, are teaching the latest DEI nonsense. That's what the Department of Education exists for. So we don't need it. It has got to go. Got to go. So there is that. You've also got a whole bunch of these intelligence agencies. I come from that world. I'll tell you something about the intelligence agencies, and I was an analyst too. You got like 1,000 analysts on some issue, and they're all squabbling over who gets to brief the deputy assistant secretary for whatever. It's just so wasteful. You should have a very small cadre of very elite minds and true expertise on issues, and that should be it. I mean, the bureaucracy, here's the way a bureaucracy in the intelligence community works. They would rather have 50 mediocre analysts on, let's say, Russia. They'd rather have 50 mediocre analysts all reading the reports and writing reports and all that stuff than they would 4 or 5 brilliant analysts who speak fluent Russian, who have a real institutional memory and knowledge of Russian culture and politics and history and national security and everything, right? And it's just unfortunate, but that's the way that it is. And I know what they would say, oh, but we have that. We just have the other 45. No, you don't need the other 45. You know, you can bring in younger people who are brilliant and train them up to be incredible analysts, but there's so much sloth. There's so much mediocrity. It's a jobs program, basically. This is why all the civil servants overwhelmingly vote Democrat. This is why D.C. is 97% Democrat. Because people who work for the federal government want the system to continue because most of what they do is either redundant or irrelevant, and we can't have that anymore. So Doge is huge as far as I'm concerned, but also all these individual agencies, I think, can be very much right-sized, which means cut down, and I hope that the people in charge of them will do that. It's not just about cutting down the personnel on the budget, so that's a part of it. It's also the mission creep. And the EPA, the regulations that come out of these places is madness. There's no benefit. They're just harassing people. It's crazy. Our sponsor here is MarketWise. You know, the markets and investors reacted well to the news of President Trump's reelection, and to Wall Street veterans, no surprise what's happened since then. But one Wall Street veteran took notice of a change in some processes made available this past Friday. He's informed in ways that most of us are not, because he's paying attention to the street and has been for nearly half a century every day. And he saw an investment opportunity made available, and he wants to share the news with you. Mark Chaikin is his name. Chaikin Analytics is his company. Mark sees a way to spot potential buying sprees on 5,000 different stocks before they occur, and it could double your portfolio, he says. Go to stocks2025.com for details on how his unique new discovery could double your portfolio over the next year. Again, that's stocks2025.com. One more time, stocks2025.com. Now, Pete Hegseth, my man Pete, going to DOD to be the Secretary of Defense. This is the Wall Street Journal editorial board opinion on this one. Why Trump wants Hegseth at defense. He seems to want a culture warrior to take on the military brass. Here's what he says. Donald Trump has quickly filled the top ranks of his national security team, and for the most part, they're politicians with solid experience and understanding of today's security threats. The main wild card is Pete Hegseth, the Fox News personality and decorated Army veteran who will get close Senate scrutiny as the nominee to be Secretary of Defense. The choice of Mr. Hegseth has shocked many in Washington, and that by itself might be a recommendation. He could hardly do worse than the so-called adults in the room of recent years. The armed services can't make their recruiting quotas. America's military-industrial base has been exposed as inadequate with little protest from Pentagon leaders, and no one in the civilian or military ranks was held accountable for the Afghanistan debacle. Yet he's never, now they get in the criticism, yet he's never run a big institution and much less one of the largest and most hidebound on the planet. He has no government experience, and there's no small risk the bureaucracy will eat him alive. You know, I'm going to tell you this right now. They're going to say this about anybody who's actually going to try to do things very differently. If you are a creature of these institutions, what are the chances that you are actually going to create meaningful change in these institutions? The bureaucracy exists for the preservation of the bureaucracy. That is mission number one for any bureaucracy. And that's why it's been so hard to get any real reform to change anything. But I think this could be an opportunity for things to be very different. I think Pete's going to go in there, and he doesn't have allegiance to all the different 4 stars and 3 stars and 2 stars. You know, they got like 2 stars fetching coffee in the Pentagon. I mean, there's, stars everywhere. That's not going to affect Pete's thinking. The system itself is not going to be able to bend him to its will. Will there be resistance? Of course there is. But if he goes in there just to root out the DEI madness and the idea that women should be in forward deployed combat roles, which I think is a horrible idea, and Pete agrees with me, then there will be a lot of good that comes of this. Look, we're not at war right now, okay? And Pete's been to war a couple of times. So there's also this, hey, so the people who can fight the wars can't be involved in decision making if another war comes up. We've always got to have some kind of puffed up general who is making a lot of effort to get nice profile pieces written about him in the New Yorker. Like, that's really what we're supposed to do. There's a lot of preening that goes, a lot of preening with Petraeus, a lot of preening with Mattis, a lot of preening with these, they're like the great warriors of our time. I met warriors. They were getting shot at. They were doing incredible things that took tremendous bravery and sacrifice. That's a warrior. Drinking coffee, making decisions in the Pentagon, that's a bureaucrat. It's a different thing. And people recognize that. And, I think that you have a whole different view of what it would mean to be getting pulled closer to conflict in, say, Ukraine, when you've actually seen what a conflict would be, what conflict means for U.S. soldiers. So, yeah, a veteran with combat experience to run the Department of Defense, it makes perfect sense to me. So I disagree with the Wall Street Journal here on that one. Let's get into we'll get into the Matt Gaetz one next. Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, because that's getting a lot of attention. Wow, my phone blew up with that one. We'll get there in a second. You didn't vote for this recession or inflation, but you're sure paying for it at the pump and the grocery store and all those bills that are stacking up. Look, I know financial stress can be crushing. I've been there myself. I know what it's like. The solution, though, is donewithdebt.com. Unlike others, Done With Debt created new, aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done With Debt stands between you and bill collectors. They negotiate with your creditors to write off balances, cut interest, and stop penalties. They have a plan to put more money in your pocket month one, and Done With Debt is accepting new clients right now, but you need to hurry because some of their debt strategies are time sensitive and you don't want to miss out. Let Done With Debt help you make your money yours again. Visit donewithdebt.com or call 888-322-1054 right now. Chat with one of their debt relief strategists for free. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. And now we get to the single, so far, most controversial of all the Trump appointments that have come forward. I would say the Kristi Noem one, I just say this. A friend of mine pointed this out. He said, maybe you want a lady who shoots puppies to be in charge of deporting millions of illegals. It's not going to be pleasant work sometimes. All right. I mean, that's one way to go, right? I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying that's one point of view that I have heard from people, that you need someone who's got a little bit of mean in them, a little bit of toughness in them to do that. Okay. But that's Kristi Noem at DHS. Matt Gaetz is AG. This is driving the libs completely insane. And to this, I would just say the Department of Justice was used as a weapon against Trump in an election year. What are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do with the fact that there were senior elements within the DOJ who tried to lock up for the rest of his life the man who is now president of the United States, and they did it because they don't like him. Not because he broke the law. They don't like him. You got to get really rough. You got to get really rough with that kind of politicization, shall we call it. You can't be polite about it. You're going to have to get in there and metaphorically crack some skulls. And that's what the Matt Gaetz pick is all about. Do I think he'll get through confirmation? I don't know. I would not bet a large sum of money on it, but I could be wrong. And you say, oh, Buck, Republicans have 53 votes. Yeah, including like Murkowski and Collins, and, don't forget that. Don't ever forget Republicans' opportunity to decide, I'm going to go with the Democrats, and with some of those squishy ones in the middle. So, yeah, the Matt Gaetz pick is some wild stuff, I got to say. Met Matt a few times. Sharp guy, very, very, very loyal to Trump. So there's that. I just got to tell you the amount of it's worth it just to see how angry libs are about it. It's been pretty phenomenal. Pretty incredible situation to see that play out. But this is a team that's meant to smash different parts of the system. And this is what people voted for. Well, really, I just want to say this. That's the second. The tier 2 is swamp system smashing. Very important. That's the second, or maybe you say the secondary mission. To me, the primary mission is you got to deport millions of illegals. This has got to stop. It's done. Got to deport millions of illegals. Have to do it. You're not going to have a country if you don't do this, because you're not going to stop the millions more illegals from coming. Because why? If they're not getting deported, guess what? More are going to come, and it'll change the employment markets, the housing markets, the rule of law. I mean, if we deport them, A lot of them. Are all of them going to get deported? No, we don't even have the capacity to deport all of them. Are some of them going to be allowed to stay? Well, if there's if we let's just say this, if we have 30 million illegals in the country and we deport 10 million of them, then I want to have a conversation about, okay, what do we do with the next 10 million? And then we can have a conversation about what do we do with the next 10 million? That's how we handle this. Because what the left is going to do is be like, but what about all the grandmas? It's like, well, can we get rid of all the criminals first, all the MS-13? Everybody who's come the last 4 years, by the way, out. You just got here, out. You came illegally, out. But okay, you've been here 20 years. You've been a good person in your community, But that's the last tranche. That's in terms of and this is just the way it would work. People can disagree with me, but the law enforcement priorities of any deportation are going to be along those lines. Meaning there's the people that are public safety risks. You get rid of all them. There's the people who are single adult males who just got here. You get rid of all them. They're the people who are already a public charge and illegally accessing welfare benefits. You get rid of them. And, you make your way down. And then when you have, okay, look, somebody's been here. Then the American people through their legislature can have a conversation about, do we have them go back to their home country, reapply, but we would welcome them in there? There's different approaches that could be taken. That's when the negotiation can happen. You can't negotiate with terrorism, and you can't negotiate with wide open borders. You've just got to stop it. You've got to, terrorism, wide open borders, not necessarily the same thing, but you understand what I'm saying. You've got to just deal with the urgent problem first, and then we can figure out the hard cases. Then we can deal with stuff later. Or even just, okay, now we look at the number, and the number is manageable. And we know there's not more coming in illegally. Absolutely essential. So, yeah, I hope they get it done. President-elect Trump has been busy already. Chief of Staff has been announced, nominated Tom Homan to be border czar, Elise Stefanik as UN ambassador. And that's the first of just so many tasks in front of the president. But one of the more important items is reducing our national debt. It won't be reduced quickly, but it will be a priority. I'm sure of that. For you, what does that mean? Strategy remains the same. Diversify your savings. So many things remain out of our control, no matter the sense of urgency in a new administration. It's important to have a safe haven for your savings. Look, Trump's coming in. He wants to handle things. He wants to change things. That $35 trillion in debt is there. He's inherited that. And that is a systemic risk to the dollar. It just is. So diversify. Portion of your savings in gold seems like a smart idea to me, but talk to the folks at Birch Gold Group. They'll help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Best news is it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Text Buck to 989898. Get your free info kit. Plus, right now through Black Friday, you'll receive a free 1-ounce Silver Eagle for every $5,000 purchased. Protect your savings with Birch Gold. Text my name, BUCK Buck, to 989898 and claim your free eligibility for silver today. All right, that's the Buck Brief. Shields high.